here.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Live from Radio Cayman Studio, this is
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community.
A very good morning and warm welcome to Money Sense. I'm Simon Cordery, your host, and I'm delighted to be joined this morning by 2 gentlemen and a lady. The first, James McGarvey, and the second, John Watson. Good morning to you, gents.
Morning, Simon.
And good morning to Jodie Ann.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, Jodie Ann, you are the police media officer.
Yes.
And you have said to me that you're hoping not to talk too much, provided
Yes.
the police officer next to you doesn't get himself into trouble. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, excellent. Well, let me introduce the 2 gentlemen then. James, first of all, is an IT professional who has his own IT security consultancy business and is the founder of a new conference to Cayman called Besides Cayman, of which more later. John works with the Cayman Police and leads their cybersecurity response team. John has been in Cayman for 15 months and has come to us from the UK, where he was with, previously, the UK's National Cyber Crime Unit and then the National Cyber Security Centre, which investigates serious cybersecurity crimes. Now, it's 7:34 in the morning and I've talked about serious cybersecurity crimes, and people are probably already choking on their cornflakes. So let us sort of head right in, I guess. So the purpose of this show, James and John, is to help us understand the risks and issues that businesses and individuals should be better aware of in order to help keep ourselves safe. This show is often about finance, about money, about investing and such like. But the reason we wanted to have this conversation is because if you don't have that framework around how you operate individually or as a business, it doesn't matter how well you invest, how much money you accumulate, you could lose it in a heartbeat because of cybersecurity issues and cybersecurity threats. So we wanted to understand where the landscape is and what's going on. So therefore, gentlemen, without any further ado, perhaps you could give us individually your perspectives on why IT security is so crucial, and then we can talk about some of the things that are going on in the world today.
Well, it's crucial from a number of perspectives. From a personal perspective, security protects the things that are important to you. Okay, it protects your assets, protects your personal information. It protects your everyday life almost in terms of the businesses that you work with and the businesses that you work for. From a business perspective, you mentioned earlier the financial, risks with having poor cybersecurity. It can affect your business financially, obviously. We've seen the phishing campaigns, for example, where people have inadvertently sent big bank transfers based on an email.
Well, hang on. You're going to use a bit of terminology there, and I want to not pick you up. I want to ask you to explain what you mean specifically, because I think one of the things in cybersecurity is it's known for its acronyms, and you use the word phishing. So what does that mean then?
Well, a phishing is an email from a bad actor purporting to be from somebody within your organisation, or trying to get some information from an individual. So it's typically from a bad actor. It's always looking for either a way into your organisation, information about a person individually, or information about that organisation. And we've seen cases where individuals will be able to access a company's email and basically fake emails from individuals within that organisation. So, for example, they might pretend they're the CFO requesting that a bank transfer is made to an account that the bad actor owns, and some of these bad actors will monitor those accounts for a long time, and they will actually be able to mimic the writing style of the individuals within the organisation to make it look like a legitimate email. So if you're talking about cybersecurity risks, that's a big risk internally, the one that's easily tackled by training, for example. But in terms of other risks, reputational risk is a big one. So if you're a company that relies heavily on managing your clients' information, personal information, or certainly stuff that shouldn't be made public, the release of that information can do huge damage to you reputationally.
Because it puts you in an awkward position, because you might have, let's say you've got 100,000 clients, you've got their bank details or whatever, or their personal information. Take a health insurance company, just to use an example. They have private information about people, and as you're saying, if that gets hacked, then suddenly the reputation of that company gets badly hurt, because all the private information about whether you've had this medicine or that could be exposed to the general public.
Yep. And in the case of credit card numbers, for example, there's an obvious issue there. They'll end up on the dark web, and
We'll talk
there's
about
huge loss involved.
So you said dark web there. Just explain to us what that is.
Well, the dark web, the internet is huge. The dark web is basically sites that are a little more inaccessible to those who are not as technically proficient. So sometimes you need a special browser to access it. It can also just mean sites or parts of the internet that are password protected. But they're generally the place where black market transactions happen. So people selling credit card information, people selling scripts for hacking or tools for hacking, ransomware, that kind of thing.
Okay. So that's sort of your perspective on why it's important for businesses. I guess a different perspective might be what's so important about cybersecurity from the Cayman Islands perspective, and what do we do about it? What are the police force doing about it? So perhaps, John, you could give us a perspective there as to what you're seeing and what you see as being important.
I mean, I think it's important to point out initially that cybercrime or cyber threat can be seen as being, that's big businesses with lots of computers, with huge infrastructure. And actually it's not. We see a lot of individuals being targeted. The phrase phishing was used earlier. I'll use a different one called smishing.
Smishing.
Smishing
Okay,
is basically the same thing but using SMS. So people will get...
An old-fashioned text, you mean?
Yeah. So people will get a text with a link there. And these can be quite sophisticated. Excuse me. The one we saw recently, actually, I won't say which bank it was, but it purported to be, and it actually was, the sign-on page for a bank on Ireland. So if you clicked on the first link, you would actually sign into your account, and the actors wouldn't get any information from it whatsoever. Then that would be followed up by a second link saying, thank you for doing that. Can we now do this? And that's when they stole... That's
really clever, isn't it?
That's where you stole your...
Because you often think about a link to a slightly distorted version of an original site.
Yeah.
But you're saying this actually gave the people confidence that they were doing the right thing and then maliciously caught up with them afterwards.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think a lot of people are under the impression that phishing they're easy to spot. Phishing emails, they're easy to spot because it's poor grammar, it's poor English, it just jumps out. But as James said, these phishing emails these days are very, very sophisticated. They mimic almost entirely the signature of the person they're purporting to be. So right across the island, the message we want to push is cybersecurity goes from the mobile phone you hold in your hand right up to a big company with a room full of servers. It's important to understand that it's not just big businesses, it's not just huge networks that get targeted. People get targeted on their mobile phones through social media sites, etc.
So you said something there, you talked about SMS attacks, and I'll profess to put my hand up and claim ignorance on this, and James will probably berate me after this show for such ignorance. But I recently I have a what do you call it, an antivirus piece of software on my computer, and it recently said to me, do you want to install this antivirus to screen your SMSs, your texts? And I thought to myself, first of all, who sends texts anymore? I do everything on WhatsApp or other such things. And I did say yes, and I thought that seems a bit pointless. Mm-hmm. But you've just given a perfect example as to why it's very important to not be negligent about protecting all aspects of your digital presence, because I'd never even thought about people trying to confuse me or trick me through something like an SMS.
It's one of the things we see most of on the island at the moment, or the islands at the moment, is this people being texted purporting to be different banks. They use a thing called a tiny URL, which is our URL is www.rsips.ky. Mm-hmm. So that's obvious, as there is a piece of software that can turn that into what's called a tiny URL, which doesn't look like that, and so it's quite easy for people to think, I don't know who this is. It must be right. It's from the bank. And often it's not from the bank. Banks tend not to.
Why would anyone use such a piece of software in the first place? Because it confuses the viewer. Sorry, why would a good actor use such a piece of software as a link? Because it doesn't have the full address then.
Well, they wouldn't.
Right. Okay.
I think the phrase we use a lot, or two phrases we use an awful lot in cybersecurity, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Mm-hmm. And secondly, never ever click on a link unless you're absolutely 100% certain it is legitimate. And that can include going back to the originator of it and saying, oh, by the way, have you sent me this? So if somebody, as James said, if somebody sends you an email saying, oh, we've had to change a bank account, then you pick up something other than digital media. You pick up the good old-fashioned phone, call them and say, excuse me, have you just changed your bank account?
Yeah.
I bet most times they're going to say no. And just doing that simple step, you could prevent not only a crime, but save yourself lots of money. I think cybercrime can be seen as a victimless crime. It's definitely not. People lose lots and lots of money, and I'm talking about individuals as well as companies. It's not a victimless crime.
Now, you said something at the beginning of your narrative there, which is that it's not just big companies that are affected by this. It's actually individuals. Is it more common in Cayman then for individuals to be the victims of such crime, or is it more evenly spread? How? Because I think, to your point, a lot of listeners will look at this and go, well, it seems to be all the rage that those big global companies are being hacked. They're paying these big ransoms to people for their data being attacked and stolen and then to be released. But you don't hear many stories about person A down the street sort of seeing their data being hacked, but perhaps that's because they're not reporting it. Well, what's the reality on the ground?
I would say it's not just being hacked. People do things that they shouldn't do, and by clicking on links, or by believing a certain story, or by being duped by these actors who are very clever. They use a lot of social engineering and know an awful lot about people. People put a lot about themselves on social media, which is targeted a lot by actors. They'll look to see people who are vulnerable, people who are calling up for help, and they will actually target those type of people.
Well, I wanted to ask about that because I think James said people are very good at impersonating the style and using such information. Do you think, both of you perhaps comment on this, do you think in general people put too much personal information on the likes of a Facebook or a LinkedIn or a Twitter? In other words, people put their birth date, people put their, I don't know, their pet's name, because often those are security questions. You know, on the bank I use, it says, what was the name of your first pet? Well, luckily, I didn't have a first pet, so I've made up a name. But do you think, but people put these things on social media to be very proud of the fact this was their pet's name, or this is where they were born, or this is their date of birth?
They answer the quizzes. You know, you see these quizzes with all of those questions lined up, and people respond to them.
Oh, the quizzes on Facebook and such like.
People don't consider where that data ends up.
So talk to us a bit more about that, because I think it's often trivialized as being, oh, those are just fun quizzes to explain why I'm more likely to retire to the Galapagos. They're sort of weird things like that, aren't they?
The month you were born, plus the day, plus your first pet's name, that kind of thing. You know, it's just gathering information about you. You know, from all of those things, as you mentioned earlier, they're typical security questions asked by a bank. So gathering those type of information, it's basically allowing people to build a profile about you. So if I wanted to try and guess your password, okay, I would make a list of a load of things about you, you know, gathered from social media, you know, your pets, the football team you like, things you like to do for fun, where you were born, all of these things, and I'd make a list. And I then run that through something that would generate a bigger list, combining elements from them, maybe putting in some random characters. And that would give me a pretty accurate password list that I could try and run against your accounts.
Excellent. We're going to take a quick break while I just decompose from the stress that you've just caused me. But do join us again in a minute with James McGarvey and John Watson straight after the break.
Money Sense is brought to you by the Chamber Pension Plan. For further information, visit chamberpension.ky.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan is kicking off the new year with a new website to better serve our members and a new administrator's agent that will help fulfill our vision for your pension plan. Our website, chamberpension.ky, features improved web services like a real-time chat to help answer your questions quicker and audio tips to help you plan for your retirement savings arrangement. Our new administrator's agent, Saxon Administration Limited, will benefit members through enhanced systems and IT services, allowing for a greater customer service experience. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630.
As the longest established pensions plan in the Cayman Islands, the Chamber Pension Plan looks forward to delivering the same strong performance for our members, but now in a new location. As of March 1st, our new pensions operation office is located at 14 Saturn Close, Eastern Avenue, the same building as our new administrator's agent, Saxon Administration Limited. A dedicated and experienced team will be assigned to the Chamber Pension Plan. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. New location, new administrator's agent, new customer service, same strong performance.
Money Sense, the only personal finance radio show in the Cayman Islands, hosted by Simon Caudry from the CFA Society Cayman Islands.
This is Money Sense.
Welcome back to Money Sense and our conversation on business and personal security. How at risk are you, was the question we asked, and how scared have you become as a result of the first half of the show? I will confess to a tinge of anxiety, not helped during the break by further stories, which we're going to continue with. I want to continue with a couple of illustrations as to things that people should be doing, or things that people are being exposed to, and then turn the conversation a little bit to ways that you can protect yourself and also discuss where these hacks are coming from. So perhaps you'd like to carry on, John, and just sort of give us some more things that we should be scared of, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I've been investigating cybercrime for some time now, and it's gone on from the idea of a 17-year-old in the basement of the house writing scripts to send out stuff is way more sophisticated than that. And actors will be looking for vulnerabilities and be looking for opportunities to exploit individuals. An example I was talking about on island at the moment with rent seemingly increasing, that's an area where people will target, and they'll offer properties for sale that they don't actually own, but they're looking to get the deposit from the individuals. They're looking to get money from them, but they're not going to offer a condo on 7 Mile Beach for $50 a week. It's going to be about $200 or $300 less than the asking price would be, where people think, well, I'm getting a real bargain here. This is excellent. And the message we want to give out is just be careful. Just really ensure that before you make any sort of transaction, particularly if you're buying something online, that you're buying it from a legitimate owner. Do checks, do due diligence, because it's quite easy to get pictures of the inside of a property from another web page and offer it on advert sites on island. Those are really easy things to do. Once it's on the internet, it can be copied. Websites can be cloned and put up as something else. They are quite sophisticated. They know what to target. They know to target vulnerabilities, and they are absolutely scrupulous.
And where are the
unscrupulous?
Unscrupulous, yeah. Where are these attacks coming from then? Is it? And I'm not sort of picking at people in the community, but is it people who are residing in the community? Is it global organizations? Where are these? Because these are somewhat sophisticated in the sense that people have got to go and take pictures of something else, merge it with something else, put it on a website, create fake bank accounts. And where are these attacks coming from?
And that's really the message that the police want to push about this type of crime prevention, because the people who are committing it are not on Cayman Islands, and they're probably not even close by. Fraud tends to emanate from a lot of African countries. Bigger, more sophisticated cyber attacks tend to come from organized crime groups within Russia. Basically, these people are beyond the jurisdiction of the FBI, let alone ASIPs. And so it's going to be, we can disrupt them, we can do what we can to disrupt them. But a judicial outcome is very difficult, if not impossible.
So if you have been the victim of something like this, first of all, it sort of almost sounds, in a sense, it's almost not worth pursuing it with the police, but that's not the message you want to give.
Absolutely, 100%. It is definitely worth pursuing with us. We can take action to disrupt them. Okay. These earlier when I spoke about the links on the Smishing web pages, so I'll get those taken offline.
So if people report things that they've fallen victim to, then you can stop the next person falling victim to exactly the same thing and reduce the incidence of those sorts of things.
Absolutely. I think we have a degree of underreporting of incidents that are happening on an island, and we really want to push the message of reporting all these incidents to us so as we can take action. For us, the best thing is to try to disrupt it by taking the web pages offline.
Well, I know I work in the financial services industry, and we're required, if you're subject to a cyber attack, to report that to our regulator. Luckily, never have been, and touch wood and all the rest of it. But I think people get scared and nervous about admitting they've been hacked, or there's an embarrassment factor. But I guess in reality, and not to take anything away from that, but in reality, the optimal solution is to not be hacked. And so, James, perhaps give us a couple of best practice ideas on things that people should be doing to prevent exactly that sort of scenario.
Good password hygiene is important.
What does that mean then?
It means rotating your passwords, or well, not rotating. It means changing it. Changing it every 90 days. Most systems can automate that and prompt you to do it. A lot of people in the past said you really shouldn't have to do that anymore, but if you have MFA.
MFA being?
Multi-factor authentication, so either a code on your phone or an SMS message or an email with a code in it. I think that's kind of changing back now to change your password regularly, because we've seen bad actors basically brute forcing, you can say, MFA. So if they know your password, they'll just keep hitting your MFA, and it's an annoyance factor. So if you keep getting hit with it, it's please authenticate, people will eventually press OK. I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of devices with the same account on it. So sometimes I'm not sure why I'm asked to be authenticated. I think it's probably a browser session over here or an email on my phone or something. So it's important to always press decline on your multi-factor if you're being prompted for it. Other basic things is what's very important is training. Train your staff. Get them to be able to recognise bad links coming in, as John has said, being able to recognise potential phishing, smishing.
How do you go about training someone in this? And because a lot of people will be listening going, well, this is great, but where do I go for these training? Are there online courses? What's the best way of doing these trainings?
There's online. We offer those services as well. And it's an hour in a room. It's an hour basically helping people understand and recognise the types of ways they'll be targeted, be they by email, smishing, WhatsApp messages, even phone calls at this point. And well-trained staff will cut down on your risk by a huge degree. It's probably one of the most important things you can do. But training once and forgetting about it is bad practice. You have to keep following up, and you have to test your staff as well. That's equally important.
There's a view that I think resonates with a lot of people, which is nowadays Microsoft is as an example, a more secure system for on your computer than it used to be. It has its own Microsoft Defender, and so a lot of people have said, well, I don't need to bother with my own antivirus additional software. Is that a view you subscribe to?
Yeah, I think Defender's fine.
Okay.
I think for most individuals, for most companies even, and with the way Microsoft have grown the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 or whatever they're calling it now, that whole ecosystem is very well integrated. So if you're a company that's really a Microsoft shop and using primarily Microsoft, it is a very good solution.
Just make sure to turn it on.
Well, it should come on by default. I think you have to go to great lengths actually now to turn it off. But yeah, the Microsoft ecosystem now and the way it's detecting threats is actually pretty good. It needs configuration. I would say as an individual or a small business, if you have it there, you should get a professional in to make sure it's configured right. But once it is configured, it is actually a very good system.
But that doesn't necessarily protect you on your phone. It went for smishing attacks and such.
Not for smishing, certainly not. But if you're using email, for example, for Office 365, then it will go through a degree of scanning before it gets to your phone.
Now, talking of training, and we're sort of a couple of minutes left in the show. One of the things that I'm conscious of is that you're setting up a conference here on Ireland, which conference sort of sounds somewhat like training to me in many respects. So tell us a bit about that and what it is, what it's about, and what it's supposed to be, who the audience is, and what people would learn from this conference.
Sure. So B-Sides is it's a security conference, but it's a little bit different. It's more of a community focused conference. So we're a non-profit, and we're non-vendor orientated. So a lot of conferences you'll go to, especially in the IT field, the presentations will be more like product demos than actually informational, people demonstrating various different things in security or otherwise. So it's a little bit different in that respect. It's 2 days. We've got 23 speakers and presenters. A lot of them are from US based companies in Canada as well. A lot of them are very well known, renowned speakers who would be speaking regularly at the bigger cybersecurity events. And the reason we've been able to do that is because B-Sides is a well-recognised brand in cybersecurity. So it's been going about 12 years. It's a non-profit, obviously, and it was started by a guy 12 years ago with the onus being that he calls it a non-conference, so non-vendor orientated, very much about the community, very much about giving back.
So this is is this a conference that, for want of a better expression, tech geeks go to, or is it a conference that ordinary people like me might go to?
I would say there's something for everyone at it. I think if you were...
Even me is what you're saying?
Even you.
Okay.
If you're touching a computer day to day, I think there's something for you with B-Sides. Now, a lot of the B-Sides in the US are very, very technically orientated. We have tried to be a little bit broader because we do recognise that we don't have 30,000 people in tech industry in Cayman like we would have in a bigger city to draw on. So we need to make it a little bit more broad. But what we're also trying to do is invigorate the security community here a little bit, to actually get a sense of community here, because there are a lot of really talented cybersecurity people on the island, but we're not really talking to each other, so getting everybody in a room and actually trying to build a security community around that. And secondly is to get young people interested. So we're giving away tickets, students, job seekers, anybody who's interested in learning more about cybersecurity, we do have tickets available.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, when is it? Let's talk on that.
It's on the 26th and 27th of May this month.
And there's a website, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, bsides.ky.
B-sides being the letter B and then the word sides.
Correct. Like the B-side of a record. No hyphen or anything.
I'm with you now. As opposed to, yes, quite. Yeah. If I say any more, I'll just confuse everybody. So bsides.ky is the... I guess we've got about a minute left, John. I'd just be curious, if you had just one message, one simple message to give to listeners about cybersecurity and personal protection in that regard, what would you like to leave ringing in people's ears as they stumble towards work and now have their day disrupted by this scare?
I think it's encompassed by what I said earlier. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And just do not click on links unless you're absolutely 100% certain. And the government actually have got a really good web page on cybersecurity, explore.gov.ky/cybersafe. And it gives cybersecurity advice to businesses, individuals, young people, older people. It's well worth looking at. The question you asked, James, about what can you do to look after yourself. Well, there's lots of information on that web page that you can go on to, and it's really good advice.
And does that web page have guidance? Let's say I wake up one morning and find I have been hacked or something bad has happened. Does that tell me how I report such things, how I get advice and guidance from people like yourselves?
If you want to report a crime like that, then contact RCIPS 911 or
949-4222 is the police station number, and our communication staff will be able to direct you where to go. On our website also, we have a feedback page, so a lot of times people might not know if they've been victim of crime, and they might have that question to ask.
I think people sometimes feel nervous about have I been?
Yeah, so you can send feedback and leave your contact details, and our PR team gets those emails, and we direct them to the accurate officer or unit that they are required to get it. So you can feel safe using our website.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to yourself, and also to the gentleman here for, as I say, slightly making me slightly more anxious now than when I started this morning. So appreciate that. It's always how I like to start a Thursday. But in all seriousness, it's a topic which I think it's underappreciated in terms of its importance. So I very much appreciate you gentlemen coming along and giving me these stories and these incidents so that we can help each other just try to avoid some of these mistakes and these minds. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
Now, my regular note before we depart is just to remind every one of our listeners that this show is available as a podcast on the CFA Society Cayman Islands webpage, and also on YouTube as a podcast there. So you can go to the website for that. And if you have a question or topic that you wish us to cover, please email us at moneysense@candw.ky or tweet us at moneysenseradio. With that, thank you once again. Goodbye, and please do tune into Money Sense in 2 weeks' time.
Money Sense is brought to you by the Chamber Pension Plan. For further information, visit chamberpension.ky.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan is kicking off the new year with a new website to better serve our members and a new administrator's agent that will help fulfill our vision for your pension plan. Our website, chamberpension.ky, features improved web services like a real-time chat to help answer your questions quicker and audio tips to help you plan for your retirement savings arrangement. Our new administrator's agent, Saxon Administration Limited, will benefit members through enhanced systems and IT services, allowing for a greater customer service experience. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630.
And studio time now by Foster's is 3 minutes after 8 o'clock.